All right, last time we ended up finishing up the save routine. So here's the function that we wrote in the model file to update our employees. We send it in a request array that came, from the form. And then we just take all that data from in there and transfer it into an update command to update everything on our form using the employee ID as the guide. Set up all the parameters, learned how to deal with null values, and also unformatting. If the form is null, or if it's missing, then save null. If it's not missing, unformat it, because on the screen we want phone numbers that look like phone numbers, but in the database we want 10 digits. Same kind of stuff for all the ones that are null. And one extra little feature here, if it's a checkbox, a Boolean field, yes, no, actually checkbox on the form, that may not even be set. If the user does not select that checkbox, nothing gets sent in the request array at all. And so the way to see if it's checked is simply use the isSet function. The isSet function can then be stored in a Boolean field in the database. We use the employee ID as a where field, but really that's not quite accurate. So the first thing I want to do today is just tweak this a little bit and modify it, because on this form we have an employee ID that is not an auto number field. So most of your tables, if not all of your tables for the systems class, have auto number fields. And if you have an auto number field, then this technique works fine because you never change the auto number. But I did want to show you an example, and that's why I chose this one, where the table doesn't have an auto number field. If the table doesn't have an auto number field, then obviously I can change the ID number. And if I change the ID number, now my update command is not going to work, because this ID now ends in a 2, that record doesn't exist. So how do we deal with that? What we need to do, because the ID number can change, is somehow remember the original ID number. So what I'm going to do in my form is add another hidden input. And its name will be org ID. And in order to mess with it in JavaScript, we also have to give it an ID. And later on we will mess with it in JavaScript. So there'll be an ID that's equal to org ID. And then I'm going to set its value. Now its value may or may not be anything. We're also going to be talking about inserting a new record today. When we insert a new record, there won't be anything in the value field, so we have to allow for that and deal with it. So the value is simply going to be equal to our field value function for the detail array. Detail, which one did I use here? Details. Notice the similarities, right? Value equals, actually this is PHP, so now, oh boy, I'm going to do a little PHP here.
You just copy from the 2 lines below.
Yes, thank you. So this says if there's an employee ID in the details array, use it as the original value. And also use it, and this is redundant code, we could store it in a variable, but it's relatively small. Okay. And also use it to display on the form when it first pops up. But this org ID will now be another variable that's in the request array. And if I change the ID here, it won't change the org ID, the original ID. So now when I come down here, I want to set the employee ID equal to the new employee ID, if there is one, comma. But the where clause uses the org ID. So when I'm looking for the record in the database, I'm looking for the original ID number, and if it changes, this will update it and not cause any trouble. However, now I've got an extra set of parameters that I need to bring in here. The employee ID is its own parameter. And then down here at the bottom, I'm going to call this one the org ID. And it grabs the org ID. So now my parameters plug into that query properly. The employee ID goes up here, and the org ID goes in here. Make sense? And we shouldn't have to do anything different because I've added the org ID up here and I've added it in down here. So now let's go back to the list. And we'll go back to Tammy and we'll change her ID number to 2. And what I hope happens is it now updates her ID number in the database. Now there's a risk here because again, I'm running an SQL query and I'm doing a header. Remember when you do the header, if there's any errors, you never see them. So if this doesn't work right away, then that'll be my first thing I'm going to change. And Tammy's here, and when I touch her down at the bottom, please expand. It didn't even expand far enough. Come on. Either it chopped it off or it's not showing it to me. Well, let's just click on her, see what happens. The 2 is there. So that gives us the flexibility to change any field, even if it's not an auto, even if the table doesn't have an auto number ID. Normally that auto number wouldn't even show on the form, you just use it behind the scenes. So now we can save anything, except a new record. Back on the employee list, we did create a button to generate a new employee, and it gives me a nice empty one. But when I hit save, we have a problem. Because this is the same form, and when I hit save, that causes the button save code to kick in, which is where I was in the cases statement, which I don't have, so let me bring that up. Here's my cases, and when I hit save, it goes to employee update, and then it does a save, which calls update employee, which is not going to work. Because update employee updates existing records. We need different SQL for inserting a new record. So a couple things we can do here. First things I'm going to do is add a new action called employee save new. And notice it uses the same set of cases because the only thing that's different, there's a button save, there's a button cancel, which goes back to the list. We're actually going to hide the delete button so that won't kick in, but that'll happen on the form. If the user hits the save button, we still want to validate. If there's no errors, this is what's different. If we update or whether we insert doesn't matter, we go back to the employee list, so that's the same. Otherwise, if there are errors, we do all the same kind of stuff. So all I need to do to separate, distinguish these two is put an if statement in here and say if the action. I have an action variable. I must, otherwise the switch statement wouldn't work, right? Action variable is right there. So if the action triple equals update employee or employee update, because that's the action variable, that's what I'm looking for here, employee update. If it's equal to employee update, then update the employee. Else, insert an employee.
So, because that case is empty, it's just going to drop into the next one?
Which case?
Okay.
Yes, that's how case statements work. If you want multiple values in the same case, you just list them on top of each other. Because there's no break here, just drops into the next one. So both of these work. They both process the same way.
Could you put an or in there?
No.
Would you say this would be one of the few situations where this is the favored way? I mean, this is one of the only situations I've seen so far where cases having the ability to fall through comes in handy.
Yes.
Otherwise,
No. Cases falling through handy is not too uncommon, actually, because if I wanted to treat Stevens Point and Plover and Wisconsin Rapids all as one group, I could list them on top of each other, and I've seen that. And I'd have to go back and check the syntax for JavaScript, but most case statements are today are getting more elaborate, and you can do case greater than or equal to 1. But we're working with strings here. And Justin's question of can I put an or in here, the only way I could put an or in here is if my switch statement had a true as its criteria. So multiple cases that all do the same thing isn't terribly uncommon. You make it sound like it's horrendous or something, but no, it's two cases that we can choose that do basically the same thing, or that do exactly the same thing. You know, if we charge the city tax rate is the same way for all 5 of these cities, could list them and say tax equals 0.05. Okay. So it's not terribly uncommon. We just don't see it a lot. And it's definitely not frowned upon.
oh yeah,
Right? That there's no break here. What's weird is if you finish all this code and don't put a break in. That's weird. Having a case that does nothing, that just means these two are the same. But having one of these that does some processing and then there's no break, so it falls down to the next case, that's rare. I've only seen a couple of circumstances where that comes in. So I think this is all I need to do in here. And again, this is also tied together that we have to be careful. But the action is employee. It still starts with employee, otherwise we never get into this case file. Employee save new. If they hit the save button, that's what's important. The cancel process is the same. If they hit the save button and there's no errors, then we check to see is it update, then update. Otherwise, insert. This is really the only processing that's different between update and new. Call a different method. So now going back to my employees, we need to write the method to insert. And the method to insert is not terribly different than update. So I'm going to steal that. Because I need all of these, most of these, if not all of these bindings. And I'm still going to return a row count. And so I'm just going to copy all of this, put it in the right place for insert, which would be right in front of this.
You're missing an curly bracket.
Thank you. You still get the request array, but now instead of an update of an existing record, we're going to insert into TBL employees. Now in my case, I'm lucky because I have an employee ID that is not auto number. So I don't have to list the fields in this case. But just to give you a feel for what it looks like, remember the value, it simply looks like insert into employees, the employee ID and the first name and the last name, etc.
Is there a way to set every single field like you do when you insert one?
Set every single field, but you don't know what the new ID number is. It is in an auto number field. Right here, I don't have to list my fields because I'm going to set every single one.
Yep.
Right, but if you're using an auto number field, you don't know what the new auto number is going to be, so you have to list the fields here, except the auto number field.
Yep.
You have to list them.
Well, I'm saying since you do have no auto number field, when you update it,
Mhm.
update and set,
Mhm.
is there a way to do that without having to list all the field names and just list the values?
No. You mean to use the update command? Can't use an update command because the record doesn't exist, so I can't set something.
No, I'm saying for that command to say update table employees and then set and then just put the values.
If there is, it's news to me.
Okay.
But you know what that means. Probably exists, I just don't know about it. All right, so back here, and we better get that curly bracket before I forget. So back here, I'm going to insert into the employees table all my field names, plant ID and phone and hire date and salary. And remember, I'm just doing this for your reference. I wouldn't normally have to do this because every single field gets a value. So I can just say insert into table employees values. Value or values? Values.
It goes before.
Before the field list? This is a field list that I'm inserting into.
Right.
Okay.
Pretty sure value goes at the end. And okay, I have all my, so here's what I want to insert. Just to make it a little more readable, we'll move that down here. Here's my values, and then the values get parentheses. And then we don't set. And I don't stuff things in here right away. I simply list the values. So I don't need any of these equals. I simply list the different parameters. These values are now going into those fields. And if you're not sure, just go look at an insert command. And there is no org ID, and I need my end parentheses. So this says insert a new record into table employees, these fields in this order. You could also use this, and this is something you're going to have to do for almost every one of your all of your auto number tables. You just skip the auto number ID and go first name, last name, gender, plant ID, and it'll generate a number for you. Then we simply stick values that go into there. And then the binding commands are pretty much the same, except there's no org ID. So we still deal with null exactly the same way. We're still on format. And we execute, close, and all that's left to send back is a row count, and that should be 1. Because that's all we expect to insert at any given time. One last thing. How are we doing on this? If you're trying to follow along, okay? Got the picture? All right, my cases, just a quick review, my cases, check to see is it employee save new, but wait, where did employee save new come from? If it is employee save new, and it's not update, so we insert. So that should work. But where did this employee save new come from? It has to come from my form. So I have to go back to the details again, and here's my details. And now I need to take a look at this, because it's not always going to be employee update. That's my next, this is my next action. I can't call it that, but this is my next action variable. What am I going to do when this form submits? I'm going to employee update. Oh no, not necessarily. So this needs to change. The employee update, that will stick. But now I'm going to put some PHP in here to figure out, should it be update or should it be employee save new? How do we know? Based on the action that causes it. So going back to the list view here, this button has an action of what? I have to go look because it's not going to, oh, I could look inside the view here. View the page source. That button is right here, and it has a value, an action value of employee new. Okay, so if the action coming in is new, then we want to save new, otherwise we're updating the existing one. Because every other one has an action of employee details, so we could check for that. So either new or details, I'm going to use new because it's going to come back to help me a little bit later. And somewhere in here I had a tip. Where did it go? What I'm going to do is write some PHP here. I need my apostrophes regardless. So in between here, I'm going to put some PHP. It's going to figure out what value should be. I'm going to echo one of two words, either update, employee update, or an employee new. Based on what? Some kind of a condition. So I'm going to put the condition in parentheses and either a question mark or a colon. So in here, what I have in my notes is if the string pos of the action, let's see, action comma new, where'd my cheat goes here? Yep. Of the word new. This basically says, does the action have the word new in it? If that is greater than 0, then it's in there. I found it. So if it has new in it, then the next action should be employee save new.
Case
Otherwise, pardon me? Yeah, they're case sensitive. Otherwise, the action is employee update. So this is basically saying if the action is employee new, then save new, otherwise update. I think this is going to come back to help us a little bit later, because if we ever come back to our form and there's an error from PHP, which we're trying to avoid, but I don't think we can avoid entirely. If we come back to our form and there's an error in the PHP, we're going to display the existing data. And the action when we come back will be employee save new. So that if we get into a circle with errors, this will help. But bottom line for us right now is, this is checking to see, do we use save new as the action or do we use employee update? So I'm going to test that real quick. Close this window. Refresh this one. Shouldn't matter too much, but I'll do it anyways. And I'm going to click on Tammy. I'm going to view the source because I expect the action to be the next action. This is my hidden variables. Here's my hidden variable. Next action is employee update. So when I clicked on Tammy, it said, oh, we're updating Tammy. That's cool. I'll go back to my list and click on employee new. And now if I view the source, it says employee save new. So it is sensing what I wanted it to sense. And now I think I have it all tied together. I have a new action in my cases. I have an if statement that sorts that out. I have a new function that inserts a new record. And my details form senses that it's a new record versus an existing record. And again, this is all because I'm reusing one form. And all of it's JavaScript. I'm reusing one form as a new entry form and an update form. You don't have to go through all this rigmarole if you've got one form for insert and one form for update, which many of you do.
I ain't writing 2 forms.
You're not right? No, not in your case. You don't want 2 forms. Okay. So that seems to be working. So if this is a new record, I should be able to enter a new one here, and the number shouldn't matter too much. And I'll get yelled at if it's not a good number. Okay. And I'll put in a first name of AA and a last name of AA. That way this person will show up at the top of the list if everything works. Go with Saugatuck. Help me remember that. Phone number 666-666-666. And we'll put today's date in here. And a salary of $20,000 just to be nice and round. And we'll check this to see if it works. So now, whoa, what's wrong with my phone number? Missing a digit? Yep. Now I should be able to save this, and if all goes well, it'll take me back because my current, and this is another risk, I still have my header in there, my header command. If this fails, because I mistyped something in my insert command, it's going to go back, but AA shouldn't be there. So this is my first test. Oh, there's AA. Click on it. 6 AA, male, Saugatuck. 37. 37. Is that what I put in there? Probably. Don't know what day it is. Normally it's not off by 2. Last night I was testing this at home. Today's the 9th, right?
Mm.
Yeah. I was testing this at home and it moved back a day. But that's because I had not set to Chicago. I was still in Berlin time in my PHP at home. I had not remember there's a config setting. Go way back to unit 1. There's a config setting to say I'm working in Chicago, so don't do me any of this Berlin stuff. Uh-oh, must not have set this one either because it went backwards.
Mm.
This has got slashes in it. I wonder. Let's go to the employee form. Actually, we want to go to employee. Ooh. Maybe it's our insert and update that we need to tweak. Because the dates that we're getting, I'm really not sure. So I'm going to employee cases. Before I insert an update, I think I want to see the request array. Then the header is going to wipe it right back out again. Three eight. There it says 3.8. But with dashes in it. Oh. Why would that cause any trouble? Shouldn't. So it does say 3.8 with dashes. So even though it looks like this here, behind the scenes, we're getting, when we look in the request array, we're looking at ISO format of this. And remember, ISO format can sometimes cause trouble, but it,
If you refresh the page, will it change?
doesn't seem to. So was it new record or was it update? Let's go back to Tammy. Change the date. Whoa.
That's a nice Mac feature.
Oh, that's a dangerous guy there. Okay, so let's change the date to the 7th. Save. And it changed it right there on the fly. Did you see it? Why? My validation, maybe? I wonder if I still have, we shouldn't need to validate it, but I wonder if I still have JavaScript validation that is reformatting the date into ISO format and screwing it up. I did not expect this, so this wasn't part of my planned lecture. Here we go. All right, pattern for that. Hire date. If it is a date, which it should be, enter it. If it matches that pattern with the dashes,
Volker, if you open up in the browser, if you go back to that page and then go to your settings in the upper right. More tools. No, I'm sorry.
that's the right one, or you want more tools?
No, yeah, you gotta go back. You gotta be on that page when you open it up though, because it'll open up the console and you can step through that function and see what's happening. You have to be. in
Yeah, I
the
know what
tab.
you're talking about. Normally you'd press F12, right?
But you gotta be in the tab. 'Cause otherwise, now it's just for this page. Sources.
Maybe this is what I don't want to do.
What's it saving in the database?
It seems like every time I come back here, it keeps taking a day off the list. So this is Tammy. That was the 6th. It's still the 6th. So if it's existing data, it's not bad, but it's when of course, I didn't do an update.
Yeah, if you'd save one.
It still says 1/6 here.
If you don't format it,
No, did you see that? It's my validation that's doing it. Because every time I leave the field, it's changing the date by 1. It's always off by 1. And I think it's because I'm putting a date in here with dashes in it instead of slashes in it. Because I'm reformatting the actual value. Right here, I'm changing the actual value. I think that's what's causing my trouble. But if I don't do that, then in Firefox, what do I get? Firefox, whatever you type, you keep. And if it's not an ISO formatted Firefox, oh boy. I haven't. You see the problem is in that, or am I the only one that sees the problem? If I go back to Firefox, Firefox doesn't have a date picker. User types a date in March 3rd, 2015 format. I don't want to leave it in that because when I save it into the database, it won't go because it's not in the right format. But if I put it back in there in the right format and it's this kind of a date picker, then it screws it up. I think that's the case. Let's go into the.
Can you change a variable into a string first, before you put it back in the date picker? Will that fix it?
It is a string.
Or the date pass as a string.
This is a string because the entered date is formatted, so it's already a string.
what happens if you format it with slashes?
What if I don't put it in with format? What if I don't format it? If I put it in with slashes, it's going to be a mess in Firefox.
Don't format it.
If I don't format it, it's going to be a mess in Firefox because whatever the user types in Firefox will stay. When I try to save it in an unformatted version, what I would have to do on the PHP side, what we would have to do is not format it in JavaScript and then format it in PHP so that if it's not in that format of ISO year, format it using PHP. And not worry about the browser formatting what's on the screen. Okay, the user sees March, the full word, 9, 2015. That's what the user sees, but we store the right thing in the database.
Or you put in a mask.
Or you put in a mask, or you use a date picker. Okay, there's all kinds of options, but this is definitely, I'm sure that's what's causing my problem here. So let's save that and go back to the list. Back to Tammy. Arg. Back to the list. Still did it. Probably need to oh, it's still there. Did I save it? Yes. Refresh the page. Okay, now it's gone. I left it alone. So that's what was what causing the problem, but we might need to, if we're concerned about it, I don't think we need to be necessarily here because of the project. But that's another one of those little kickers to watch out. That one I did not expect. I did not expect that by putting an ISO date into this date field that it would change its format, or that it would take it down a year. Not terribly surprising because we fought with that all along.
Take it down a day.
It takes it down a day because we're off by 1 from Greenwich Mean Time. And somehow the date picker there senses it. I don't think it's not my PHP because it was messing it up in JavaScript. And remember, that's why we went through a lot of this rigmarole of change it by putting in slashes. Put it over here where you can see it. Is the given date, is what we have there a date? Then we formatted, and then we took the entered date and format it with dashes, but only if it's not in that format already. So then the next question is, if it was already in that format, why did it do this? Oh, because it shouldn't have been there. Wait a minute.
Breakpoint on 169.
Huh?
What?
Put a breakpoint on 169.
Yeah, because it shouldn't have been there because it should have matched this pattern, right?
What does it?
What's the EL there, though? There's the problem. What's that doing there? Folk are converted to jQuery. And so all my dollar signs got converted to jQuery, and this is the end of... Oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. Okay, put that back. Sorry. It's a good time for a break. So we can now insert new records. So we can insert new records, we can update existing records, the program can tell them apart. What I want to do after the break, and I'm not even sure I'm going to record it because I'm still too fuzzy, I'm not sure it works. Maybe, yeah, we'll record it in case it does work. Okay. Let's check for duplicate records. I want to start checking, when we save a new record here, we need to know a couple things like, is this a duplicate ID number? In my case, again, with your auto number fields, you don't need that. But we'll pretend that my logical keys here are my first name, last name. I don't want duplicates there either. Okay. How do we go about that? My goal is to make that work asynchronously so that the JavaScript goes back to the database and say, you got one of these, you got a Tammy X Agent X out there in the database already? And have it come back to me with that. Do you have this employee ID number in the database already? And if the answer is yes, then have the JavaScript kick in and go, wait, we're not leaving. And display a message saying this is a duplicate record. So we don't have to go to the server to do that. That's my goal. But I've never done it. I tried between 1 and 2 today to do it, but I couldn't get done. So we'll play with it.